action for the men. Kai Robinson of Stanford, Sam Prakel of Adidas, Brian Fay of Washington, Jonathan Davies of Hoka, Joseph Tessema of Peak Running, and 2 athletes from Wisconsin, Jackson Sharp and Bob Laking. Kieran Lum of On Athletics, Victor Kiprop of Alabama, Chad Johnson of Iowa State, Yassine Abdallah of Tennessee, Simon Bedard of Butler, Isaac Green of Washington, Michael Power of Tulsa, Thomas George of Roots Running Project, Duncan Hamilton of Montana State, Fernando Daniel Martinez of Mexico, Kirami Diego of South Alabama, Baldwin Magnuson of Eastern Michigan, Nate Osterstock of Drake, Santiago Prosser of Northern Arizona, Charlie Sweeney of Colorado, Tom Brady of Michigan, Brian Masai of Akron, Yassine Kermeli of Gonzaga, Antonio Lopez Segura of Virginia Tech, Jonathan Shields of Boise State, Henry McLucky of Adidas, the British star there, and Anthony Garosa. He's going to be one of our pacers at the front there with Isaac Green also pacing from Washington, our top 2 pacers there. I think they were looking for 60. Let's see what the meet directors told me about the pace. They were looking for 63s up front for Green and Garoso. So 63s, holy moly, would put them at 13:08. You know, you're looking for 63s, that might be more like 64s for the rest of the field. So it's somewhere between 13:08 and 13:20. Kai Robinson right there, the usual suspects at the front. I love seeing Kai Robinson right there, the Australian star for Stanford, ranked third in the country in the 10K, 7-time All-American. He's run 13:11 indoors. That's a school record at Stanford. We're talking about Stanford here. So a school record is very impressive. That's number 3 all-time at the collegiate level indoors. His 13:11. He's run 27:44. He's one of the class of the field here, tucked in right behind the Rabbits. We're going to get a check at
he finished
meters.
He finished 10th in cross, and then he finished 10th and 7th in the 3K and 5K at Indoor D1 Champs just a month ago. So he has impressive performances already. He's a World Championship qualifier, Stanford school record holder in the steeplechase and 5K, and he's the Australia and Oceania under U20 steeple record holder. So definitely some high performances from him. But I think before we go too much further, someone we got to talk about, he's way back in the pack right now, but it's Brian Fay.
Yeah, Brian Fay. We're not going to lose sight of Brian Fay. He actually sliding up as we're talking about him. I lost sight of him. I called this meet last year. I lost sight of Brian Fay, and he made me pay for it. Morgan Beadlescombe was running a masterful race in the 5K here last year. Looked like he was going to put it away, and then Brian Fay went 50, maybe 53 seconds for his final 400. Came from outside our screen. We couldn't even see him. All the fans on the track and coaches were blocking our view sight. We couldn't see Brian Fay, and then out of nowhere, he just emerged and ran one of the best last laps you will ever see. I don't think anybody is sleeping on Brian Fay now. He was an All-American indoors in the mile. He's run 13:18. He's the meet record holder now in this event, and he did it in spectacular fashion last year. So we'll keep an eye on Fay. So for one night last year, it was not the Bryan Clay Invitational, it was the Brian Fay Invitational because of such a spectacular final circuit he did here of Cougar Stadium. I like the athlete right now. Jackson Sharp is in a good spot from Wisconsin. He's had a nice career there for the Badgers. That great program. Liking is also up there for Wisconsin, number 6th in the 10K right now. He ran 28 flat at Stanford. We're going to get a 1 mile split. Also, let's talk about Sam Prakel in just a bit. He's been one of the real stalwart American distance runners for the last, 7-8 years, running for Adidas. Had a great career at Oregon. Has been a world championship competitor for the U.S. indoors. He has a U.S. indoor championship, just fresh off of a U.S. indoor championship this year. And ran well here last year in the 1500, a part of that collegiate record race. We just saw our 1600 come through. They were right on pace, maybe right around 13:20 pace up front. We see Garoso step off. Isaac Green's going to keep things going for his teammate Brian Fay, who's tucked back in the pack. He's laying back a little bit, but we know he's going to make his presence known over the final lap. But Sam Prakel there in about 4th right now. He was a part of that collegiate record run by Kipsang in the 1500 here at this meet last year, now opting for the 5K. And then you can see Kieran Lum He is a University of Washington star, now running for On Athletics, the Canadian star. He's been an All-American for University of Washington indoors. He's run 3:38, 3:52 in the mile, 13:23. This event is loaded. One guy to not lose sight of, if we pull back a little bit, is going to be Kiprop. And Victor Kiprop of Alabama, you're going to kind of see him in the middle of the pack. He's run under 28 minutes at Stanford, one of the #2 in the country in the 10K coming into this weekend. He's also the NCAA, fresh off of an NCAA 5K championship indoors. So he is in fine form, kind of having a breakthrough year for Alabama. You can see him in about 12th right now. So really a lot of, everyone's got chops. You can see Duncan Hamilton there of Montana State. He was the runner-up in the steeplechase, and now Kai Robinson at the front. Now, is Kai Robinson the guy to beat, in your opinion?
Yeah, just what he's done this year already so far, he is the guy to beat. I would like to look for Kiprop, though. He was on a tear through cross country. He won 5 straight meets all the way up until NCAA South Division, where he finished in the 30s at NCAA championships in cross, but he has been on a tear winning, so I like him as well. He's sitting towards the back of the pack.
All right, so important splits coming up, 2,400 meters right now, and they're going to be right around 6:30. So that's 13:33 pace, and as they come around the turn, we'll get the halfway point, and we'll get a look at it. It should be, right around, 6:45 or so would be 13:30, and there's halfway right there, 6:47, so 13:32 pace up front. That is well within the capabilities of a lot of guys here, so we're going to see some fireworks. And when you talk about fireworks late in the race, you got to keep an eye now on Brian Fay. I will not be caught off guard this year by Brian Fay. He's in about 8th or 9th right now. I don't know if he's given too much room away, but then again, what happened last year, So how many times can you go that well? How many rabbits can you pull out of your hat? But we'll keep an eye on Fay. He's got a big-time mile to his name indoors. He ran excellent indoors. What about that Washington crew indoors? Coach Andy Powell has done such a great job building the middle distance program there. They had, I think, 5 or 6 athletes in the final at the indoor mile. Luke Hauser and Fay, you can see him right there. Great shot of Fay in the middle of the pack there, just lurking and waiting. And when he gets going, it is fun to watch. He just starts flying. He's not one of these big kickers. He's a little guy. He moves out and he just starts flying. His feet get out behind him and he gets rolling. He's on the back of that line, and I wonder if Kai Robinson just stretches this out too much, if it's too much for the kickers. Sam Prinkle looks really good there in 3rd. He's flanked by the duo from Wisconsin, I believe.
Yeah, Kai Robinson looks really controlled up front. I expect him to lead most of this race, if not all of this race, all the way to the gun. He is definitely our favorite at the moment, but I do like how everyone is strung out here. Everyone's in a position to make a move. Everyone seems really comfortable at this pace, just letting Kai kind of do his thing and go with him, see what they can do.
Robinson, Sharp, Prakel, Liking, and Lum. In fact, last year, Lum was wearing that Washington jersey. We were watching him. We couldn't even see Fay. When Fay started to go, we thought it was Lum. Lum, a great career at Washington. Now,
there's a nice shot of Jonathan Davies right there coming around the corner.
Yeah, Davies running for Hoka, a great British athlete. Had a great career.
6th last year in outdoors in the 1,500 meter.
And ran at the World Indoor Championship, so he's got great international experience. Obviously, like we said, it's tough for some of these professionals to be dropped in right in the heart of the collegiate season. Now a mile to go, 9:14. Kai Robinson's just kind of there, knocking out laps. Doesn't seem to be trying to inject any significant pace, and maybe he is trying to keep his powder dry because he knows there's going to be big kicks coming late, and he's just kind of put himself in a good position, so when the kicks start, he's at the front already.
Yeah, no one's really wanting to make a move at the moment, but it's still, it looks stretched out from where we are, but with how fast and how talented all of these guys are, everyone's in contention to make a move, especially along that backstretch is where I expect it to happen. One of these laps are coming off that first curve.
They're are on 13:30 pace, but that means nothing when these guys can close in sub 60, maybe sub 2 flat for their last 800. They got the last mile coming up. I expect even potentially a sub 4 last mile is something we could see. And if you see that, 13:30 goes out the window, and that's when 13:20 comes into play. Prakel kind of sliding wide here. You see the Wisconsin duo trying to stay close with Robinson. Robinson's doing just enough to kind of keep the pressure on the field, and they're stringing out just enough that they're going to have to move. Look at Kiprop in about 12th, maybe 9th, I should say, and they are at 3 to go.
And Brian Fay's still there in that 10th spot, right around 9 or 10.
Keep an eye on him.
Got to keep an eye on him.
Kiprop, I think, has got to start getting moving at some point if he's going to be in this. You know, he ran a 10K recently. You know, maybe that he's feeling that. He broke 28 minutes. You also wonder how many of these guys are just here to run a time, and they're not. We saw that last night a little in the 10K. It didn't look like anybody was throwing haymakers. It was jabs all day until the end, so that could be part of this. Also keep an eye on Duncan Hamilton. What a career he's had. He's in about 7th, the runner-up in the steeplechase. We've talked about the Bobcats of Montana State, Coach Lau Weiss, and what they've done, and nobody has done maybe more in that program than Duncan Hamilton. He's in about 6th. Now things are maybe starting to break up a bit. Prakel's sliding up. Lum is right behind him. Lum looks really good. And it's still Kai Robinson. Now Fay is on the move. You can see Fay beginning to gather. Look at Fay gather. He's got to join that front group with 800 to go. He can't give them too much space. You got to think that he's playing a reel in his head of a year ago, and he knows, geez, he had twice this to make up, maybe even 3 times this to make up on Beetle Scum. He's got to think this is light work right now. If I can get rolling, this is no problem. But also, you know that Kai Robinson is not going to let that happen easily. Maybe Bielscom got a little surprised. Look at Fay on the move. Fay just passed 3 or 4 runners. Now he's got himself in 6th. To me right now, it's Brian Fay's race. It's a Kai Robinson versus Brian Fay in my mind. There's a bunch of guys in between that have chops, Lum and Prakel, but I feel like it is Fay right now who he has come to life. You know how that goes. He's starting to feel it. Maybe he was questioning a few laps ago, but now he has come to life. The energy is there. Fay is right there as we come up on the bell. This is going to be a monster last lap. Look at Fay slide up. Can he go back at Bryan Clay? Is Bryan Clay going to be Brian Fay again? Fay at the bell. Prakel's got chops though. Watch out. Prakel is a world championship competitor at the mile. He goes right with Brian Fay. It's the two of them. Fay and Prakel. Fay and Prakel, that's it. It's the 2 of them. I don't think anybody's bringing them back. You got 2 of the best kickers in the game going at it. Can Brian Fay go back-to-back? If he does, we're going to have to ask Bryan Clay if he can take over the name of the meet. Is it the Bryan Fay Invitational right now? Bryan Fay and Sam Prakel. 150 to go. Keep an eye on the clock. 13:04. There's a shot that they can break 13:20 if they really roll. Bryan Fay is going to do it again. He's going to hold off Sam Prakel. Great run there. Look at Bryan Fay. He's the king of the Bryan Clay Invitational again. 13:21. What a run for Bryan Fay. He went 13:18 last year. 13:21 this year. He's just going to ask for every meet to be held here in Cougar Stadium because he is so at home here, and nobody loves a final lap more than Bryan Fay. 2 years in a row, he goes back-to-back. He's the 5K champ, and we'll see where that puts him on the national list. What an impressive. When he gets going and he starts moving, there is very few athletes. I mean, Kai Robinson is a stud, and he just blew that field up right there. A bunch of those guys dip under 15:30. They did what they needed to do, but I don't think anybody can kick with Bryan Fay in the country right now. You just got to wonder if people can run away from him, but I don't think anybody can kick with him.
Yeah, that time to beat originally Bryan Fay's last year, 13:16. They did not quite get that, but Bryan Fay is your new 5K Division I leader. The time to beat on that was 13:20.